Welcome to Risky Business. And our first guest ever is Eileen Peet. Now, Eileen Peet is an entrepreneur. She is the owner of Wendell Street Marketing. And important to note, she is a mom. So she wears many hats. And my first question is about the mom side. So what's it all about being an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a mom? Take your time, because we're going to recognize our sponsors. Our sponsor is SMC. SMC, who is that, you ask? Sports Medicine Concepts. It's all about your athletic trainer, from the top of the food chain at the NFL all the way down to the high school level. So if you are an athletic trainer, if you are a parent of an athlete, Sports Medicine Concepts is somebody you want to get to know. Go to sportsmedicineconcepts.com for more details. Believe me, it's somebody you want to have in your corner to take care of your athlete, because so many injuries cut a possible pro career short. sportsmedicineconcepts.com. Eileen Peet, you're up.
So you asked about the mom part. I think with the hats that I wear, the mom part is about being a role model. So being an entrepreneur, especially with COVID right now and the kids getting to see me work from home, from one day in my office to sweatpants and a blazer because I'm in Zooms.
You have the Zoom outfit?
The Zoom outfit. So, leaving the house today and asking, Mom, where are you going? Like, they get to see what my day looks like. So I think that the role model is the first and foremost. Being a parent, being a mom, you want your kids to learn from you.
Sure.
And you want to be a good example.
And I know your family, so you and your husband, Ted, set an excellent example.
Thanks.
And I know your kids are very polite. They're very respectful. So to that point.
That's just because you're not their parent.
Well, that's true, right?
Nobody warned me for the teenage years.
Yeah. Oh, I can remember when my youngest son, people would come back and say, "Oh, he's so polite." And I'm like, are we?
Do you have the same kid?
Yeah. Are we talking about the guy that sasses me back all the time when I try to get him to do something? So tell us a little bit, what's Wendell Street Marketing all about?
So Wendell Street Marketing started, we're 2 years in. And really, my business partner and I, we were tired of working for other people, and we combined our skill set. When we first started, we wanted to, take over the world. So we offered all sorts of services. We were going to do, she has a background with some creative writing, technical writing. I'm sales and marketing, so we were really going to do grant writing and grant research and social media management and website design, and then we really narrowed it down. So we really are social media management for some of our other clients. We just got asked about some grant research.
Sure.
So, writing. We do offer short video commercials for some of our clients. But social media management seems to be, that was the number one service.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I know a little bit about the story. And by the way, Eileen manages my social media, so she will be taking this and putting it out there. And also, while I've got your attention, behind the camera is my grandson Morgan from Cendoma Media and Technologies. And yes, and be aware, I wrote him a check before this started, because this is the Risky Business Show. And the first rule about business is make sure your client has the funds to pay for your services. So I wrote him a check and he's off. And I didn't even get a family discount.
You did.
Yeah, I did. But first, no freebies on the family side. So let's share the story about you and your sister Anna, who is the technical writer. And by the way, she somehow wormed into my head and writes this technical stuff for social media. And I'm like, I read it and I'm going, oh, I didn't write that, but that's what I would have said. So talk about how you went out and engaged your clients and said, this is what Anna and I are proposing. what do you think? And they said, that's great. We can do some of that. How about, can you do this for us? Because I think that's an important part of, entrepreneurship is, what are your customers' needs?
Well, we started with our first client, and she's actually she's wonderful. She's an entrepreneur herself, wears many different hats, and ultimately gave me the push. I was like, my social media really needs some help. And previously, when I was in outside sales, marketing always came with it. If your marketing is up to date and your social media is, on point, it matches, because as sales, you're looking up the company online, and you know how that goes.
Sure.
So I had helped her before with just some different tips and tricks, and she just reached out, and she was the first person to just say, this is what I really need. And then after a month or two of working with her, she just said, why don't you make this a legitimate business? Like, here's the push.
Yes.
Step off the ledge.
Yeah.
So I said something to my sister, and it was like, the planets aligned, and it was the right time for both of us. And it started with social media. And the more I met with different companies, most of them I either knew I had a relationship with,
Sure.
relationships,
Yep.
and the different hats I've worn with sales. So I think I was a natural fit. Like, I already had trust because they knew I did
That's
a good
right.
job with their accounts for sales. So when I approached, different businesses about this, they were willing to hear me out and then see examples of our work. And
Sure. And you mentioned trust, and that is so important. People hear it all the time. People do business with other people. People buy products from salespeople because they trust them.
Yep.
And when I heard about your venture with Wendell Street Marketing, I'm on the phone to you because I've been thinking about.
I remember that call.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, tell me what. Yeah, exactly. And I've been looking to offload or delegate my social media side of it because it just took up too much of my time, and I'm not good at it.
Right.
So when I heard that you were doing that, I reached out to you because I know you, I trust you, I know the performance. You're a master salesperson, and we can talk about that a little bit. But you're trustworthy, and I know you're gonna do what it takes to make me look good on social media, which is part of it. Oh, and by the way, she gives me homework. I don't want you to think she does all the work. She gives me homework, which sometimes I think, oh my goodness, I've created a monster. But no,
It's good homework.
Yeah, it is. It is, because I have let my writing skills slide, and it has forced me to get back into writing again.
Which I should remind you right now on camera.
Oh.
I need your article.
I know. I knew you were going to say it. I knew you were going to say it. So I'm a little behind. When we leave here, I've got some drive time, so I can at least record it. And then I'll tune it up and get it over to you.
That's fair.
So the other thing I want to talk about, and we hit on the word delegate.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear this all the time. Entrepreneurs wear many hats. And every time I hear that, I always think of myself with a stack of hats. I got a top hat, I got a baseball cap,
Cowboy hat.
I got a cowboy hat, I got a Mexican dance hat, a sombrero, thank you, sombrero. So I always think of that. And, of course, there's two things that come to that. The more hats you stack up, they're just going to fall off. Mm-hmm. And so everybody says entrepreneurs have to be able to wear many hats. And it's my thinking that the more hats you wear, the less successful you're going to be. The probability of you having everything collapse is going to increase as you try and wear more hats. Delegate my social media stuff to Wendell Street Marketing, Eileen Peet, and you do a great job at it, and that part is taken care of. So one of my favorite sayings is, do what you do best and delegate the rest. Yeah. Now, the fly in the ointment, and you can address this. what are the chances that most entrepreneurs know how to delegate?
Well, I think the term entrepreneur is so trendy right now. I mean, it is. Everybody's like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I think the key would be, are you a successful entrepreneur?
Sure.
Right? And I think a successful entrepreneur does know to delegate that, right? Working with different businesses, you really look at the business owners or the entrepreneurs who are like, you know what, this is time. Like you said, here's my social media. It's what you do it. I'm going to delegate this to you. It's one of the biggest things we hear is that it's time, right? So you might not have the time to spend 10 hours a week creating and writing your thoughts down, doing the pictures and managing that. But you could take that 10 hours because you've delegated that and put those 10 hours someplace else into your business, which in turn makes you more successful.
Something I'm good at.
So even if it's not social media, if it's payroll, you know what I mean?
Sure.
As an entrepreneur, maybe you doing your own payroll, for example, takes,
I don't do that either.
Right. X amount of hours. Delegate that to somebody else. Like send that off and that time, like what is your time worth to you an hour?
So when I think about, what am I really good at? I'm good at generating proposals, generating business, engaging with our clients and with our customers. That's what I'm good at. Yeah. And that's where I should be spending my time. And by the way, that's the fun part for me. I don't have to think about that. So, I just naturally gravitate towards that. Paying the bills, doing the payroll, I offload that too.
Yeah. So
part of the challenge with entrepreneurs is we can be very susceptible to micromanaging. So, I delegate something off to Eileen Peet, Wendell Street Marketing, and something in there, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, I wouldn't have quite said it that way. Well, you have to say, all right, I wouldn't have said it that way, but they got my point across. Then you got to go, I would have said it that way, but holy mackerel, look at the reactions, look at the views, look at the feedback.
Right, the interaction.
Yeah, the interaction, the feedback, and you got to go, well, you know what? I wouldn't have said it that way, but maybe that's a better way. So that's the other thing that you learn. The other part about delegation is some people think I just offload it to you. Right. But no, you and I talk all the time.
No, it's right. It's a partnership. Just as you say here, I do my social media. Do I have, clients that say, here you go, I don't want to see it, I don't want to hear it? Yes. I can't say that it's going to be as successful as somebody who does. Let's have a conversation, because the more that I talk with my clients, or the more that I see my clients, and even if it's just a weekly check-in, hey, how you doing? How was your week? What's trending in your world right now? Sure. We're going to talk about that, and then you want to incorporate some of that information into your social media, because that's what's relevant to your audience. So,
growing up in the engineering world, you would think that the easiest piece of delegation that you could possibly do would be to take an engineered drawing, a print, and send it over to the machine shop. And the machine shop should be able to make that drawing without any interaction with you. You just delegate it to the machine shop. And I remember, younger I think one of professors at college told me, that engineering drawing is a universal language. A drawing that's done properly, you should be able to send that drawing to anywhere in the world, and any machine shop in the world can make that drawing. Except there are some things that can be drawn on paper that are very hard to translate to actually machining. And that's when your machinist calls you and say, look,
we need a technical writer?
That's when the machinist calls you and says, look, I understand where you're trying to go, but it's going to be really, really hard to have a blind hole here. I don't think you really want to do this. Is there another way of doing it? Yeah. So that's that interaction. And then, of course, once you get the print refined where you've actually had that interaction, then you can delegate it. Yeah. And it looks easy. You just send the print over. But if you don't have that initial feedback, for example, getting back to what you do for us, you looked at a lot of articles that I'd written in the past. Basically, in my book, thanks for plugging my book. Yeah, that wasn't
Nice
planned.
book.
That wasn't planned, by the way, but thank you. But, you sent some of this stuff off to your sister, so your sister could get a feel, for how I write or how I like to communicate. And that's that feedback part. Since you are a master salesperson, and I like to consider myself a master salesperson, entrepreneurs, and so you mentioned trendy, the word, entrepreneurship is very trendy.
Mhm.
Well, it's almost like sales has become a bad word. I don't know how this happened. Well, actually, I do know how this happened.
One too many bad salespeople.
Yes, right. So one, and you and I know this because we are master salespeople. So let's just talk about that a little bit. So the worst thing that any salesperson or any service provider can do is to waste the customer's or the client's time. So let's talk about that.
Well, with talking about that too, I think, to back up just a little, when you use the term feedback, talking with a client was like brainstorming, right? So when you meet with a client or somebody, in sales, I really try to take like that first initial meeting. I want to hear about your business. How did your business start? Like, tell me everything. And sometimes let's brainstorm. What do you want this business to look like? I think conversation is so important. So wasting your client's time, is the conversation valuable? Is the conversation pertinent to the business that you're trying to do and where you're trying to take the business? So I try not to waste anybody's time.
Sure.
Sometimes though, you just like your clients so much that you do get chatting.
Oh yes.
So that's
I
don't think that's a time waster.
Well, you and I, if I'm in town, if I'm near Wendell Street Marketing, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for a coffee. Do I want to have coffee by myself? I'll reach out and I'll say, Eileen, are you in town? Let's have a coffee, because we always have a good exchange that, starts out, maybe it's not business, but we always end up chatting business. You'll say, hey, I got a lead. I thought about you. So, maybe we can talk about it.
But as a salesperson too, my time is valuable.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things too. It's don't waste my time. After the first, the initial conversation, you already know if you do have an interest or not in whatever it is I'm selling, or, so then the next conversation from there should be moving forward in a progression, right?
Right.
I shouldn't have to have the same conversation with somebody 5 times.
Right.
So, I think that's you never want to waste your client's time, but in return, as a salesperson, don't waste my time.
That's a very important point.
Because,
our time is just as valuable as our client's time. So that's an excellent point. Excellent point. See, that's why I have you on. So the other thing I'd like to do is challenge entrepreneurs out there that when they get that call from a salesperson, rather than just go, it's another salesperson, give that salesperson a little bit of homework. Just give them something to do and see how they come back. If they're really, truly a good salesperson, they'll come back to you timely. If they're not, you won't hear from them anymore. And all you had to do was invest a little bit of your time, and you won't have to worry about that salesperson coming back, because a poor salesperson is going to go, I'm not going to call that person because they give me something to do.
Right.
Now, a good salesperson, we're going to go, okay, that client just challenged me. I am going to do some homework. I'm going to find out what that client's needs are. I'm going to come back in the form of benefits and a proposal, and we're off and running. And that client's going to go, wow.
You care.
Yeah, I really care.
Because ultimately, they want you should care about who you're doing business with.
Sure. And most clients, they'll start out, they'll give you a little, they're trying to build the trust.
Yeah.
And once they realize they can trust you, then you're off on an excellent client relationship.
Yeah.
So I know that you're nationwide. And I'm laughing because on the way up,
It's really cool to hear somebody say that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I say it when somebody else says it.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, yeah, I really
Yeah,
have.
so on the way up, I must confess, on the way up, Eileen tried to call me, and I just had the tunes cranked because I sound really good in the car.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And they were singing the song, and Morgan, you probably know who sings this song. I'm Nationwide. Who is that? I don't know if you know. It's probably not it's probably in the 80s, right? And that's your little, that might not be in your genre.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyhow, I like the song Nationwide because,
Look it up.
yeah. So, I won't even attempt to sing a lyric, but just look it up. But, today it is so easy to be nationwide.
Right.
Just because of the whole internet and everything. You put a website up, you're global.
Yep.
And it used to take companies decades, generations to get global. Now, you're nationwide because you just came back from North Carolina?
I did. I came back from North Carolina where I was with one of my clients, and it was great. It was actually coming out of New York State and going to the South and just seeing, I think honestly, how COVID has affected like the different areas.
Yep.
That was interesting. You know
Sure.
what I mean? But it was by word of mouth and referral. I mean, I haven't paid for advertising someplace. Right. I try to stress to my clients, and sometimes, and you know this, if you've never been in sales or had a sales rep for your business, people don't always understand sales, but marketing and sales go hand in hand. You know what I mean? So if you're new to an area, if your business is new to an area, and again, I know COVID makes this a little more difficult, but popping into different places that would be, relevant to the line of work you work in, just to introduce yourself, drop off a line card or a couple business cards. I really try to encourage my clients to do some of that, even though they may look at me like she's crazy. But no, it's interesting with the travel and, you work the sales formula.
Sure. And you mentioned, sales, marketing, advertising. So since you brought that up, let's just do a little clarification, because sometimes I get a little wonky, little crazy when I walk in, and I'll walk by and there'll be a sign on the door or a razor sticking out that says sales and marketing department or sales, marketing, and advertising, which drives me crazy because they are related, but they're so
separate.
Yes, they're so separate.
One works, which makes the other one work, and that's how they connect together.
Yes,
exactly. They're not the same department.
So I'll give you a quick rundown, and this could kind of be a schedule for upcoming shows where we can do a deep dive into it. But basically, for you entrepreneurs out there, this is what it's all about as far as sales, marketing, and advertising. So advertising, and you may recall when I broke for advertising for Sports Medicine Concepts, I kept it very short. Who we are, what we do, and how can you find us? That's advertising.
Yep.
It's just, this is who we are, this is what we do, and here's how you can reach out to us. So that's advertising. Marketing is all about data. It's all about gathering data from the marketplace. And Eileen told the story about how you went out and you proposed something to a client, and the client said, "That's great. Well, we can use you on that, but how about can you do this?" That was the discovery, data gathering. So that's what marketing does. Marketing comes back and says, "Okay, this is where the world's trending, and how do we want to address this trend?" So marketing is all about gathering the data and doing the analytics around that data.
Yep.
Salesmanship. Now, salesmanship is all about bringing home the bacon.
It's about those relationships.
Yeah, it's about building relationships, closing the order, bringing home the bacon. So, marketing does the data, advertising gets somebody's attention, a lead goes out to a salesperson, and the salesperson engages that person and finds out, okay, what do I need to do to partnership, team up, and help? And this is what salespeople do. And this is why earlier on in the conversation, I challenged entrepreneurs to put your salesperson to work. When that person knocks on your door, that's like somebody saying, "Hey, what can I do? How can I help you build your business?"
You know, one of the best things that happened to me in sales one time, I had at the time it was a potential client, said, I'm sorry, I don't have time to talk to you right now. But if you reach out to me, Tuesday the 14th at 3 p.m., I'll have time to talk to you then. So I remember I went back out, we keep our little notebooks, where you stopped, who you spoke to, right? I wrote it down, then I put it in my planner on my phone, Tuesday the 14th at 3 p.m. And, sure enough, I remember calling, and the gentleman was like, I didn't think you'd even remember. I said, no, you told me Tuesday the 14th at 3 p.m.
Yeah, that's what a good salesperson would do.
I'm ready for the conversation now. And I ended up getting the account.
Sure.
We worked together until I left the company that I was working for.
Sure.
But, that's sales.
Sure. This is a good time to hit up our sponsorship time. So I want to talk a little bit about when you go home and, you go in and you turn the stove on and that little blue flame comes up, or you open up your back door on a day like today where it's 10 degrees out, and you open up your door and the room is warm and your house is warm and cozy. Stop and think about what it takes to get that little blue flame to your house. Now, I know that your husband, friend of mine, Ted, he has a lot to do with that, and we'll plug him a little bit. Also want to talk about, there's an organization out there called the Brothers of Coil. And so the Brothers of Coil, they're all about bringing natural gas from the earth to your door. And there's so many, and the Brothers of Coil, just one little facet, there's so many things along the way that have to happen so you can bake your chocolate chip cookies in your oven. And I just want to point to one of those companies that is in that long line, and that's Extreme Shale Performance. Now, Josh Harris and his wife Heidi, other entrepreneurs. So they...
Very good people.
Very, very good people. They own and operate Extreme Shale Performance. And Extreme Shale Performance provides the equipment support that all the things that I mentioned has to take place in the field to bring that little blue flame to your door. So, everybody pictures, they picture an oil rig, a very famous oil rig, but there's a ton of equipment that goes along to support that. There's compressors, there's pumps. So it's just too long to even think about it. Extreme Shale Performance keeps that equipment up and running. So check them out. Go to their website, extremeshaleperformance.com, especially if you're in the oil and gas industry. You want to connect with those guys because they'll keep your equipment up and running. If you're curious to see how that little blue flame gets to your door, check it out. So let's talk about not your better half, your other half.
I'm the better half.
Yeah, you're the better half.
I'm the better half.
So your husband, Ted.
Yep.
Let's talk about his company a little bit because he has connections.
Connections for life.
Yes, connections for life. So I was talking about oil and gas industry, and I know that. So the actual connections that are made in the field.
Yep.
So they have a company that manufactures these, distributes these, and make sure that you don't have explosions over the gas line coming in your house. So so that's another area. And what are the chances that you're handling their social media?
So I don't, and I have not plugged them. And honestly, I probably won't. I have somebody else who I know that works in the field of marketing, and I have the referral ready to go. I know at one point they'd kind of asked about some different things, and I will always give them tips and, little things here and there. But I don't think I would mix that. But I have somebody else in the field that I highly respect, and I know that she does a great job.
So what's the thinking behind this? Because I was wrong. I actually thought you were handling Ted's social media.
No.
Okay.
He does his own. I mean, like with the LinkedIn.
Oh, I know that.
He'll ask me some questions, don't get me
Okay,
wrong. So, I
okay.
mean, I'll give him those tips. I've given the Connections for Life show just a couple tidbits here and there. Their logo was actually drawn by the person that I work with for my company who does graphics, animation, logo design. So they did use Wendell Street for that. But the actual company that he works for, Upspell, I don't handle their social media, and I'm not going to.
Okay, I think I'm going to.
No, they're great.
No.
They're
I want to stop there because I think this
But-
is a personal decision, and maybe you don't.
Well, but it's a learning lesson too. Sometimes mixing business and personal.
I thought
you knew.
Yeah, some husband and wife teams can do it really well.
If it was his business, of course I would be.
Yes.
It's not his business.
Yeah.
But I should say, because if it was his business, it'd really be my business. So, so of course I would.
But, that's a good point. Some husband and wife teams, when they go home, it's like they leave the business at the door. And by the way, this is something that I struggle with. I mean, I have clients. I had a client who called me up the other day, Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon.
Yep.
And, we ended up talking for about 2 hours, and, next thing you know, I see a pair of eyes come in the room and goes, time to get off the phone. So, and, that's something I struggle with because I'll talk business.
All the time. I know, all the time. Like a casual conversation will turn into something like, oh, you do social media management? Well, my sister owns this company. What do you think that they should be doing? And I'm like, I don't even know what that company is, but give me a second. I'll pull it up real quick. And, I don't ever mind giving people like a couple of tips, but it's hard to turn off the business switch.
Yeah.
With the kids, obviously, that you turn that switch off and, you're done with work for the day and sports practices and dinners and everything else is going on. But it's hard because even sometimes, like you said, on the weekend, if my clients need something, I would never, not answer the phone or text back or.
I have some rules. I have some rules that I've worked out over my career to try to de-stress a little bit. And, and these rules were the help from love of my life, Maggie Savino. And she says, okay, we're going out to dinner. We've been invited out to dinner tonight. So can we just keep the conversation casual? And I'm like, hey.
That was casual.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
So I could do that, and so I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then, I'm like very focused. I'm being, talking about everything except business. And then somebody asked me a business question.
Right. It always happens.
Yes.
Always.
And, and so the rule is I'm allowed like 7 seconds to change the subject. And it'll be something like, oh, yeah, I can do that. And then I switch over to, something else. And then the client switches it back to business. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Sure, we, give me a call Monday, And I switch it back. And then the clients now, 3 switches back by the clients, I'm engaged.
Right, you give me no other option.
That's it. You've left me no other option except to talk about business.
As your spouse sits there like this.
Well, I get the kick under under the table.
I give Ted the kick.
Yeah.
I give him the kick. Mostly Arizona's when he's talking about basketball, and I'm like,
yeah.
No more.
So it can be challenging.
Right.
When your spouse is an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, this is on camera, but I have to be honest. He's gonna love to hear this. He probably really is my number one fan. And I fight that. Like I'm a very headstrong person, and he loves to sing my praises. So him being on that, that he's one of the first, like one of my clients, he got for me. He's like, oh, did you know what my wife does? And one of my clients is, because of him.
Sure.
So, I think he handles it very well, and he is very proud of me, which is,
and rightly so.
And I think that's important because sometimes, and I think, all marriages, like jealousy happens. Like, oh, you're doing really well at your job, and I'm doing well at my job, and it goes back and forth. But he's never. I mean, I joke with him all the time, and I'm like, well, who owns their own company? I can twist the dagger a little with him, but He really is. He's got a good sense of humor about it. And
Yeah.
he's really supportive.
And that's good. And I think it's important that,
So if you see this, just know I did speak really nice things about you.
yeah. So, you bring up another point. So sometimes, outside of my business, I get a lot of questions around entrepreneurship, and people want me to review their business plan and their ideas. And that's kind of what led me into another area. And you mentioned early on about entrepreneurship. It's like everybody wants to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
Yeah. So I have to laugh because I grew up, when I was growing up, all my uncles, they were all independent independent people. And the word entrepreneur wasn't, you never heard that, although the word goes back quite a ways. You never heard it. My uncles were businessmen.
Yeah.
They were independent businessmen. That's what they did. So now it's all about, entrepreneurship. So I always like to tell everybody, I'll get a call. You'll like this, a funny story. A person called me up and said, hey, I got this idea and I know that you're into entrepreneurship. I'd like you to look over my business plan.
Yep.
My first question was, okay, how's your family feel about this? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, everybody has to be on board. And I'm talking about your spouse, the kids, the cat, the dog, the goldfish. Everybody has to be on board. And he says, oh, not a problem. They're all on board. 3 days later, I'm walking down the street and his wife's coming towards me.
Uh-oh.
And she goes, Jim, you got to talk to him. It's a crazy idea. You got to talk him out of it. And I'm like, okay. I just keep on going. Well, it turns out that he realized that his family wasn't on board.
Right.
And so, he had to.
I think with what I did, and I will say, I am blessed to have my spouse, because financially, me taking the leap to leave sales, and
Yep.
you get a salary plus commission.
Sure.
When you take that leap to be a business owner, your first source of income is, it's
Yep.
zero at first.
Yep.
And then, slowly it builds, and your first year doesn't look like
No.
what you think it's going to look like.
No.
Year 2 gets better. And I think, as you keep progressing, it's going to get better. But him really being able to support me, not just like, hey, you're doing a great job, babe, but financially did not only to support me, but the family.
Sure.
I think that's just a
That
huge.
is huge. You have
and
to
not
have that.
everybody has that.
Yeah, and the family, having the family support you is even more important than the dollar side of it, because I know you. You're going to be able to go out. You're going to be able to close orders. You're going to be able to build that financial side of it. It's pretty hard to build the financial side of it if you don't have that support.
Right.
I
mean, if you were a single person living in your 1-bedroom, eating ramen every day, trucking through it, you know what I mean? And you can do it. But when you have a family, it looks different.
Or the other side of it, and I've seen this happen too, where, you're that person, that single person, and for some reason, you end up with $1 million worth of startup funds. And I've seen people spend themselves right into bankruptcy because they don't have all that other support. And it's great. You can be spending millions, and, it's like being on the party car in a railroad, and the bridge is out. Everybody's partying on the train, and sooner or later you're going to run out of money. You're going to go off the edge, and I've seen that too, because they don't have that support. So everybody focuses on the money side, the dollar side of it, when really that support is what you need.
Yeah.
And you need that support where you're going to have that honest feedback from your spouse.
You do.
Not only that. I support you and everything, but hey, maybe you need to move in this direction or make a little adjustment, or, you're
Yes. Sometimes, though, I have to preset our conversation, as with any marriage, where either I need your feedback or I want you to shut up and listen. So I have to.
I've heard those words.
The conversation is going. Either shut up and listen, or I need your advice.
Yeah, I've heard those. So let's get back let's get back to the delegation part of it, which I like to say, and I'll steal a little bit from the TV show Mythbusters.
Okay, good show.
And yeah, so what we're going to do is let's break down that delegation, or that, not so much a delegation, but the many hats myth
Okay.
a little bit. And it reminds me of, I actually have an entrepreneur that I worked with that actually felt that he had to be an expert in every area. So he actually went back to school, took 2 years of accounting, went back to school, took 2 years of computer, Microsoft, whatever. You can obviously gather I outsource that as well, because I don't even know the language. Every hat,
Right.
he felt he had to have an education in. What happened is he never got out of his home office. To this day, he never truly got launched. And his competition
Probably just ate it. Just
Just
went. They just went
left
by
him. And now he's making a living,
Right.
and he's good at what he does. And maybe that's where he wants to be, right there. He doesn't want to get any bigger than that.
I think that, so I told you when we first started, we were looking at, my business partner is extremely successful with grant writing. Okay. She's gotten every single grant she's ever applied to for different businesses and her school PTA and everything. Right. But it got to the point where we don't have time for it. So why wouldn't I outsource?
Sure.
Why wouldn't I find somebody who is excellent at it,
Right.
who I can add to my team
Right.
and outsource, because I don't have the time. And in order for us to continue to grow, that's not something that I could put in our house. Now, I mean, for a couple, like special clients, I would add that onto their services. But if that's something we're getting more and more requests for, I need to have somebody on backup. So I looked at a couple different peoples in the area that I live. She's looked, where she lives, just to, find somebody, on standby. I am a marketing company. I'm aware that, people need logo design, or people want to film a commercial, right? That's great. I know that with marketing, you need that, but that's not what I'm good at. So I have people on my team that I use for that. They work, under the umbrella of Wendell Street, but I found people to grow my team with that are good at these services. So it's the same thing. Entrepreneurs, business owners, they do need to delegate their services, or I guess, what their business is going to be.
So you just segued into a feature of Risky Business, which part of the Risky Business program is a feature that goes like this. Cendoma says. Hashtag. That's right. See there. That's why she's my social media person. Hashtag Cendoma says. So for this show, Cendoma says that it is pretty hard for any entrepreneur or any person to be successful. It's pretty hard to be successful without helping other people be successful.
Absolutely.
And you will become successful. So that's what we do. So you think about it. You're helping somebody else to become successful. It's really hard for you not to become successful in the process.
Right.
And it's really all we do. I mean, that's all I do. You help.
It's fun too.
Oh, it is fun. And so I come in and I help you grow your business. That helps me be successful.
I get to celebrate every little win that my clients get. Like,
That's
hey,
right.
So-and-so reached out to me and you do the little dance. Like, yes, it's working. Like,
You
get to
yeah, and
celebrate
that's you get to celebrate it.
with you.
That's right. That's right.
That's fun.
So that's just something, a thought that you just kind of segued into, and I thought I could throw out the hashtag Cendoma says, which, by the way, she came up with that because she's my social media person, which is why, because I never would have said that. I just never would have thought about it. You shipped it out to me and said, what do you think? And I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty good. I like it. because, people do business with people. So I want them to remember my name.
Absolutely.
And that's what social media is all about.
Yep.
I just never would have thought of that. So now it's going to be a regular feature. So every time we do one of these YouTube shots, we're going to have a Cendoma Says.
I have a little, right here, like a little framed thing, hashtag Cendoma Says.
Morgan, take note.
Where's the paper?
Yeah.
Where's the pen?
Yeah, there we go. So, final thoughts. So, what's the future look like for Wendell Street Marketing? Where do you want to take this? I mean, right now, the question is, how big do you want to get? I mean.
Ooh, nobody's asked me
Yes,
that.
I mean, seriously, how big do you want to get? How far do you want to take this?
I really like the thought of growing a team. Like, I want to have a big boardroom with brainstorming meetings and giant dry erase boards on the wall, and everybody ideas and really looking at all of our clients. And, right now it's obviously myself and my partner. We had an intern. I want to grow. Like, I don't want to sound crazy, but it's like I want it all. Like, I want,
Sure.
You know what I mean? But
Yep.
on that path, I want to make sure also that I have the right clients for Wendell Street, because I might not be a good fit for everybody. So
Sure.
even though I'm growing and doing well, like, I want clients that are a good fit. I want to grow. I want to eventually add people to our team. I want to have these amazing brainstorming meetings. I'd like to have brick and mortar. That is something I'm looking at this year, possibly next. Someplace that looks like this wonderful place that we're in, because this is awesome.
Oh, thanks.
So I would really, I want to keep growing. I don't know where I'm going to stop. I'm hoping I get a sign or a feeling that, here it is. But my goal is to keep going, and not quite sure how big yet.
Well, I like the way you think, because you think big. And I knew, it was kind of a loaded question. I knew you were going to come out with, a big dream.
I can see the vision. I can see it in my head. Like
Sure.
the whole picture, it's there. I can
Right.
see it. I can see the people at the table. I can see everybody drinking coffee. Maybe they're at a pool table having one beverage.
You mentioned the vision.
Right.
And, so that's kind of the difference between, a business person who is just managing a business, and every day they come in and say, okay, so today, today's Tuesday, the regular crowd shuffles in,
Right.
And I got to take care of business. I know my supplier's going to drop off this. I got to sign for that. I got to pay these bills. It's just business as usual. Where entrepreneurs, they have that vision of what the business is going to look like. And it makes me think about my business, in that you can tell from my gray hair, I've been around a while, and my vision, and I came across my line card the other day, my first original line card. It doesn't even look like
Right.
what I'm doing.
Entrepreneurs, you change,
You
you adapt.
change.
You do so much. I kind of say to for the question before. So eventually, my goal is I would love to actually work with something like Under Armour. Like, I have an amazing online, marketing plan for them for their social media, a big marketing plan, and I'd love to be able to pitch to them one day. I don't know why Under Armour and maybe it's because,
Yeah.
like the running and my family, the daughter, like the kids in sports, I don't know, but my goal is to really pitch to like Under Armour one day.
So this is really strange, because I got an Under Armour challenge.
Okay.
And we did not set this up.
I know, I'm kind of scared now.
Yeah,
I don't know what's
and,
going to say.
a
challenge.
Yeah, a challenge, because I don't know whether, so I've got an invention that I'm
Okay.
not going to divulge here, because I haven't applied for patent yet.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, do I want to approach Under Armour with it? Do I want to license it? Do I want to manufacture it myself? I have a prototype. Morgan, you may remember what it is, because I kind of bounced it off, you for a while there. And after the program,
Okay.
because I can trust you
Okay.
to keep a secret, we will chat over coffee, and we might be able to collaborate on something.
Okay.
And this is something that I thought about a long time ago. I've got a prototype, and I've set it aside because I'm just busy doing other
Yeah.
things. And that's the other challenge with entrepreneurs. We've got so many things going on.
Brain never stops.
Yeah.
The brain's always going.
I know. And, sometimes, and this is another little saying from Maggie, the love of my life. She said, you need to take that little entrepreneur in your brain, open up a box just for this evening, put them in the box and shut the lid. Tomorrow you can let them back out again. Okay. And, that is that.
Let me know if it works.
Yeah.
I'm going to try the same thing.
Yeah. So entrepreneurs have a lot of ideas, and again, delegate some of those ideas off. And again, it has to be somebody that you can trust, because every entrepreneur has a horror story where they shared a product or they shared an idea, and somebody just cut them out of the loop and took off with it. So it is something to be aware of. So I think we're cruising down on the 25-minute mark, correct?
I think we're a little past 25 minutes.
We're a little bit past
Yeah,
it.
it's good
Okay.
conversation.
You get the last word. We're definitely going to have you back again, because I want to talk a little bit more about the different areas that Wendell Street Marketing finds themselves
Sure.
going out to. I mean, you mentioned you're working in the medical field now. I think that was a little bit of a surprise for you. So,
A good surprise.
yeah, a good surprise. Yep. And so we can hear, what's going on.
Yep.
So what's your last word?
I guess it would be for all the possible entrepreneurs out there, just don't stop dreaming, write it down, put your plan in place, and like we said with delegation, find that person that's going to push you off the ledge and make your step to go for it.
There you have it. Eileen Peet, Wendell Street Marketing. We're out.